It's another good one for you today on Radio Chatter, as my guests are Ray West and Rob De Luca from the band Spread Eagle. We talk about the rise and fall of the band and the current state of affairs in Spread Eagle, as well as the projects that Ray and Rob are involved in right now. Rob's Warrior Diet, which gives him abs. I may have to look into this. Plus the fact that Ray came to Detroit and didn't even bother to text me on tour. All this and a ton more today on Radio Chatter.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
This is Radio Chatter with WRIF's own Meltdown.
As always, a big thank you so much for downloading the Radio Chatter podcast. I do appreciate it. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast or on the radio before, but I mean, I'm just a huge Spread Eagle fan. And if you've never heard Spread Eagle before, check them out. Google them, pull up the videos on YouTube or whatever. Just a gritty, salt-of-the-earth band from New York City. Only put out 2 records back in the early 1990s, but when you listen to the records, man, you can just envision, the dirty, grimy New York City environment, and these guys encapsulated this, especially on their first record, which we talk about. We talk about the second record as well, and what happened with the band, moving through the 90s, which happened to a lot of bands. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, when that cannonball known as grunge came down the road in the early 1990s. A lot of bands had to move out of the way, and a lot of bands were forced off the road, so to speak, and I think that's kind of where the guys from Spread Eagle fall. And Rob put it best in the interview when we talk about it. There were dirty, grimy bands like Guns N' Roses that stayed on course, and unfortunately, their band didn't, garner the success that Guns N' Roses had. And he talks about some other reasons why they may have gotten kicked off the road in the mid-90s. But anyways, it's a great conversation. These guys are good guys. I've kept in touch with Ray over the years. Rob, I just recently reconnected with as he was out on tour with Sebastian Bach. Of course, he plays with UFO. He's got some other projects in the works, which we'll talk about as well. And I don't know, I like to consider myself pretty prepared when I'm doing these interviews. And Ray kind of surprised me when he told me about the project he's in now. And apparently they came through Detroit not that long ago, within the past year, I guess. Guy didn't even call me or text me. Ray, what's up with that? Anyways, it's a great conversation today with Rob and Ray from Spread Eagle as we started out talking with Ray.
Things are good. Well, alive and well, I'm playing some rock and roll.
That's right. We got Rob De Luca on line. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, Meltdown. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to see you a couple weeks ago with Sebastian Bach. That was a pleasant surprise. I'd kind of forgotten that you were in that band, and like I told you that night, I saw you with UFO, a few months earlier, and I'm like, I didn't realize that was you, so it's my bad.
No, that's all good. Did you enjoy the show?
I did enjoy the show very much. I had to split. I think I left you a message on Facebook the next day. I don't know if I'm contacting your right Facebook or whatever, but anyways, I had to split because, I don't know, I had something going on that night. I can't exactly remember, but I saw the entire show. And then I guess Sebastian's he had some sort of surgery recently?
Yes, he did. He hasn't mentioned that, so I'm not going to talk about it, but it's minor.
I got you there. So Ray, I saw Rob a couple of weeks ago, and one thing that really pisses me off about Rob is he has abs, and I'm 48 years old. I've got no abs. I gotta figure out his diet.
He's a poster child for the Warrior Diet, he was telling me.
The Warrior? What's that?
Yeah. Well, basically, it's our guitar player, Zeev, is getting us all on these diets. It's not diets. It's just when you eat. And what? It's not even as much as what you eat as when you eat, but it's a whole interview in itself.
It's tricky. I said the same thing too because we took a photo shoot and both of these guys take their shirts off. I'm like, whoa!
You bastards, pissing me off.
It's not as interesting as rock and roll.
All right, there you go. Ray, when did you do a photo shoot with Rob recently? You're talking about a picture he did with Sebastian's band.
Oh, we were goofing with the camera at a rehearsal. And
how long ago was that?
Oh, wow. I don't even remember.
Not long. A few weeks.
But Zeev is very... Yeah, there you go. That's how the memory works. Zeev is like a fanatic about, posting things. He's very, visual. So he's always got a camera out or whatever, and if there's something needs to be done, he's usually really good about it.
Now, that's your new guitar player or drummer?
Guitar player.
Okay. So tell everybody now who's in the band right now as far as Spread Eagle's concerned, Ray. Go ahead.
Well, myself, obviously Rob, Rick De Luca, an amazing drummer, and Zeev Chevelle.
And is Rick related to you, Rob?
Yeah, he's my cousin.
Okay, so it's like the cousin thing. Okay, it's like was it Chevelle? I think there's a couple cousins in there, at least one of them. So
yeah, it's a family now.
So
it's a family business.
Yeah, right. So Rob, I don't know if Ray's actually filled you in, but I've been talking to Ray actually for about a year to try to get this together and talk to you guys. Then when I ran into you, I'm like, well, we got to have both you guys on. This is unbelievable. And then I was talking to Bill Leverty from Firehouse not that long ago, and your band came up again because of the girl on the cover of the Firehouse record was Paul DeBartolo's wife. And so this
his ex-wife,
yeah, his ex-wife, yeah. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. Paul changed his name.
Correct. Yeah.
So, have you guys talked to Paul recently?
I talk to him about roughly once a year for many years now. So maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending. But we're still good friends. I still have tremendous respect for him and what he did for the band and his role in the band, which was just so powerful. And he's a huge talent. He was very unique, and it was a pleasure to work with him. It really was.
So you say you talked to him.
Good memories.
You say you talked to him on the phone. What do you call him now? What's his name now?
His name is Salvador Poe. I slip all the time. It's very hard for me to call him anything but Paul.
Right.
So, because I know him for so long, and I was with him. I know him for a few years longer than Ray did, and it's going way back. So it's hard to remember to call him something else.
Yeah, Ray. When was the last time you talked to Paul?
The last time I talked to Paul was the last day we worked together. That was it.
Really?
Yeah, it was just a conversation. I think we were at a bar somewhere, and we were just like, we're not going to do this together anymore for whatever reasons, and we just sort of, no, wait a minute, I'm wrong, because we partied after that. So I'm going to say maybe
a band breakup can't get in the way of a good party.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's get our
we hung out a few times. And dealt with, chemical substances after that. But it was, the last year the band was the last year I spoke with him.
Yeah. So let's go back to the band. You guys, now you guys got signed relatively quickly on a major label. Is that right, Ray?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so
crazy. It's very whirlwind.
Yeah, so you guys, then you guys put out your debut record, and that was 1990, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You are correct.
Yeah, and so that debut record, I've talked about this before, and it's one of my favorite of the '90s because it's so gritty and raw, and you could hear a hungry band behind it. You know what I'm saying? Rob, talk about the debut record.
Well, our press release of how we got signed. It sounds very fantastical, but it's 100% true. We got together. We were together for a few months with Ray, and we booked some shows. Our manager Charlie knew some people in the industry. He invited them down to see us and give an opinion, just to kind of get us on the fast track. And we started getting record deal offers. So we canceled the shows, went right into the record plant studio, and we only had. We had recorded a demo. That's what got these people down, and that's what got us the gigs. So we only had a handful of songs, maybe 4 songs, maybe 5, and so we had to start thinking about not the shows. We had to start thinking about writing an entire record because we were going to do these short little sets, and just start getting rolling. We were the last band to record at the record plant, which was a legendary place in New York City where AC/DC and Nugent and Yes and Aerosmith recorded. So it was amazing. It was a great time, and I look forward to the future with fondness, and I look to the past with fondness because it's all great. So,
Ray, what are some of your memories from when it started?
I don't have many left. They're all fog. But we're coming from different places, meeting in New York, And there was just a lot of tremendous energy to everybody. You know, that youthful exuberance, man, you're just putting something together. You know, the culmination of your life is like happening in this record, you know, and we were all very high energy people, very driven. But they used the word showcases. Our rehearsals became our showcase. And somehow Charlie got people, our manager got people to come down to see us in the space. We didn't go to them. And word of mouth, you know, the rehearsals themselves were like an attack. We put you down in front of us in the back of the room, and we just came at you. We literally ran at you. And I remember I was like maybe 6 or 7 inches away from Bruce Dickinson's face, the guy that signed us. And I just scared the shit out of him. And, you know, you have that kind of energy coming at you. You have to sort of do something with it. So I think we got lucky. It was like, you know, whatever talent there was met luck. And, just a whole lot of crazy things were on a fast roll from there.
Now, I think I've heard about this before, but there was actually a guy signing bands out there named Bruce Dickinson.
There was, yeah, and we had to deal with that a lot of times because I remember we were on the couch with Ricky Rackman back in the day. He had a whole 20 minutes of questions. You know, it was like, so you guys got signed by Bruce Dickinson, right? And what's that like working with him? You know, he was Iron Maiden. You know, no, man, you got it wrong. This is a whole different Bruce Dickinson, and you know, that conversation ended. So it was 20 minutes of airtime. It was just goofing around. But you know, on Saturday Night Live, yeah.
Do you remember when I had Mike Bone? Mike Bone worked for a big label back then, Island or something. I'm not sure. Remember when I had him pinned up against the wall with my bass in one of these?
Yeah, see?
It's showcases. You have to understand, these showcases, it wasn't like this big sound stage we were set up. We were in a 15 by 15 basement where we rehearsed. Yeah. And we were like, yeah, if they want to come down and see us, cool, you know, and we have to rehearse. So if we had those gigs at the time, and we hadn't, you know, it was our first gigs. We had never done a gig, so we were like, we have to rehearse. If they want to come down and check it out, sure, you know. And so anyway, you were saying that Saturday Night Live, right?
No, on Saturday Night Live, they make fun of, they take the character of Bruce Dickinson where he's working with Doris. They're called, I need more cowbell.
Right.
So that name is in the industry, so he's known within the industry, but, you know, people didn't know who the hell he was outside of that.
I just met Bruce Dickinson's kid, the guy from Iron Maiden. I met his kid. He's in this band called, I think, As Lions or something along those lines.
Of course.
How were
they? Yeah, they're good. But I asked him about it. I go, so what was it like, you know, growing up watching your dad play with Iron Maiden? You know, it's just kind of a typical hack question. He's like, well, I really didn't see him. And I thought, that's right. He wasn't with Iron Maiden for a long time when he was growing up. You know, the kid's like 25 or something. But so this debut record comes out. And what strikes me about the record still all these years later is how, like I said, gritty and dirty and rock and roll it is, and how New York City it is. I've only been in New York City once, and you'd probably think that's, you know, shocking growing up in Buffalo, but I'm a country kid. I'm not really a city boy. But, I mean, was that record just because of what was around you guys at the time, or did you guys have like some sort of, I don't know, was it by osmosis that record turned out so gritty and dirty like that? Ray, I'll let you start.
Oh, wow. But I think you just said it. We took it was a snapshot of our lives at that time. You know, we as a band, we weren't together that long, so it wasn't like we had a bunch of love songs and deep stories to tell. So we just took everything that happened in our lives and put it together at that particular time. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah,
I agree.
You know,
I agree. It was a complete snapshot.
Yeah.
Broken City tells it all. Broken City, Scratch Like a Cat. Those are all kind of like street level tunes, you know, that we just happened to spit out at that particular time.
What was the line? One of my favorite lines in the whole record is, "I couldn't hear a word, but I sure could read her lips."
That's the kind of life we were living.
I always loved that line. That's like double entendre. You can take that in a number of ways, I suppose.
Yeah, because you know, you're given that whole like cliche, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that particular time that we got signed, you know, all that stuff was around. We were just living the hell out of it.
So you guys put the record out, you go out on tour, and I mean, I was telling Rob a few weeks ago, Ray, when I talked to him, that you guys were actually the second band I ever interviewed behind a band called Nevada Beach, which was the first band I ever interviewed, and they're long gone. I have no idea whatever happened to those guys. But so you guys go out and tour and stuff, and what was that first experience of touring like, Rob?
Well, we went out with Vane, and they threw us off tour.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we're actually touring with Vane again in a few weeks in Germany.
With UFO?
No, Spread Eagle.
With Spread Eagle, okay.
Spread Eagle. Yeah. But it was just, we were so high energy. Like it was so real. We were just being ourselves, and it was just maybe too much to take for some other bands. Like that record was the way it sounded and the way it came across was how we were 24/7. And I think that might have been a little much for some people, but we were committed to be the best band in the world and the most noticed band in the world. So, so Vane we went out on tour before our record was released. We were lucky to be out on tour because we made a video real quick with our own money and got it on Headbangers Ball.
And which video was that? Was that for Switchblade?
Scratch.
Oh, Scratch. Okay.
That was our first video. So that enabled us to get out on tour, or at least be considered for tours even before our record was out. So we were lucky to be out there with Vane, and that was definitely cool of them to take us out. I believe we shared a booking agent. So because, but we were just insane, and they weren't digging it. And we were going over very well, we were going over very well with the crowds, and, it just wasn't meant to be. So we'll try it again in August, September, and see how it works this time.
Now, it's funny because the second you say that they threw out the tour, I can almost see where this was going. It's like you guys are probably out playing them every night. That was just my hunch.
I'm not saying that, but we were getting a really, really strong response for an opener, and we were rising really quickly. So, but it's all good. I've hung out with Davey at some festivals over the years since then, and it's all water under the bridge. He's actually a really nice guy and a talented guy, and it's all good.
And Ray, what were some of your feelings about the first tour?
Well, they gave us the bus. And we didn't have any. The first gig was in Portland to meet up with those guys. So we drove. We'd never been on a tour bus before. So you put a brand new shiny bus, and you put a bunch of guys on it. We're goodbye to our girlfriends, and I think Paul had just gotten married or something like that. So and the blinds closed, and it became crazy. It's the Boy Scouts from hell.
Even before the first gig, Ray.
Yeah, we were just
driving to our first gig, and it was just insane.
It was a joyride from hell. We just, you can't put that many guys on a bus and expect it to be like, reading Bible chapter and stuff like that. We went crazy. I didn't hear some chemical thing took over our bodies. It was just like nuts. We're like, all right, bye, I love you. Let's go. It was crazy.
Well, that must have been the first time. I guess you guys were probably out, right? I mean, it's like, so this is like
the first. Absolutely, the first time we were ever on a real tour with a real bus, and it was just, and what Ray's trying to explain is we had like 5 days off to just drive and party and stop in local towns and hang with people, and it was just insanity.
Well, you're driving
you're literally priming the pump all the way there.
Yeah, you're going from New York to Portland, right? Is that what you guys had to do then?
Yep.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you guys go on the tour. The tour wraps up and stuff. As far as an overall tour, I'll let you start, Ray. How did the first tour go? Obviously, outside of the beginning there.
It was a great life experience for us, for me especially. I just you drive to the first gig. It's a room packed full of people. There's energy you've never felt before. We went from rehearsals to that just slamming live rooms. It was amazing. And the whole thing was just fun. I mean, it's everything you think it would be. You get to go on the road, you get to visit different towns, and you meet different people every night, and it's a party every night because you're young and you can do that.
Right.
So I hurt myself every night, but then I recouped every morning. It was awesome. But I honestly can't give you that many details because it's all a fog to me now. I mean, I was pretty polluted most of the time.
Maybe Rob can fill in on what you were doing.
I remember a lot of it, actually.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of it.
I'm blocking stuff out, I think.
The scene was so strong, like that tour, the Vane tour. We both had videos played on Headbangers Ball every Saturday night. I believe it was Saturday. And so, that would mean people would come out in the hundreds, like every show, thousands, and because that was such a strong conduit to the fans, everyone who if they saw you on Headbangers, they'd come out and see you. So you could tour, wherever in the country. And even in the world, because Headbangers was in other countries too. So the fact that we both have videos on Headbangers at the time being played every week, it was really great. So
then that tour ends, and you guys have to decide what you're going to do as far as the next record is concerned. And you guys put out Open to the Public, which is still another great record. I love it. I felt that it lost a little bit of the grittiness. It was a little bit more polished this time around. And then you guys put that record out. And what happened on that tour, and what happened with that record? I'll let you start, Rob.
Well, we had no support from the label from the beginning. So unfortunately, that label, that record, after just a few weeks of it being out, we could tell that they were not behind it at all. And I don't know what was happening over at MCA Universal, which was our label, but we obviously weren't getting any kind of support, which was a shame because, there was some really, really strong stuff on that record.
For sure, yeah.
Music was changing. Everyone was confused. Grunge was out. Everyone was confused of where music was going. All those people at labels, they tend to get really afraid, when they don't understand things. And so that was sad because pretty early into that campaign of that record, we realized we weren't going to break through on MCA Universal.
Ray, what do you got to add to that?
No, it's definitely a struggle. We during the changing of the guard, so to speak, we just sort of kept our heads down and tried to write. And MCA did not know what to do with us. So the two words matter: no support. Without that, you have nothing. But MCA at the same time, with their rock department, they were new to the game of like that particular kind of rock. So they signed 10 bands at once, and they just waited. You came to the top, and they threw the money. It wasn't a good time for sure, but we kept on the road. We kept trying to gig and make the most of it. It was a rough time for sure.
Yeah, you guys are not the first band I've talked to in the last month that had that happen to them. I talked to Tom Kiefer a couple weeks ago, and of course, Cinderella was kind of established by the time the early 90s came around. But then I talked to, Bill Leverty, I was talking about from Firehouse, and they were kind of like in the same boat you guys are. You guys put out some killer debut albums, and then this cannonball known as grunge comes down your street and starts just knocking everybody off.
Yeah, when it came around heavy. MCA just did not know what to do with us. It's that simple. You either go with the flow or you change it. They just didn't know what to do.
And grunge being accepted, other than the fact that, those were some incredible bands with incredible songs, there's a cause and effect. And the fact that all of the bands from, let's call it, the hair metal era, even though Spread Eagle was not a hair metal band,
right.
We were like a street metal band,
right.
But everyone started to get lumped together because everyone started looking the same. In the beginning, there was a defining line between styles. Like there was on one side there was Guns N' Roses and LA Guns and Faster Pussycat and Skid Row and Spread Eagle and those kind of dirty bands, and then the other side there was the Poisons and the Warrants and stuff like that, but then at one point when GNR came out, that even the pretty boy bands started getting tattoos, and so all the bands started to look alike. All the bands started to act alike, and that's the beginning of the end when you have something like that going on. And it's just too many bands and no originality coming out anymore in a genre, and it's just signals the beginning of the end. And then when grunge came out, the fact that the songs were great on some of those bands, it was just time for the world to just do that.
Yeah,
so I get, in a way, it's healthy. That's how cycles come and go.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray. What were you going to say?
It was crazy to watch. The house get clean. He's right. I'm just going to ask what he said. Music became very phony, and the kids were smart. They knew that, and bands like Alice in Chains come in and Pearl Jam and all that, and they just come in and clean house because things got real. That's all. It was the cycle of how things are.
Yeah, I talked to Billy Sheehan a couple months ago, and I asked him about that too, because Mr. Big was just starting everything. And Billy said in a roundabout way that he was almost grateful that it came in, because it seemed like a lot of the bands that were coming up were kind of cookie cutter, and they were kind of just, signing bands that looked like so-and-so and sounded like this, and they weren't really signing bands because of they could play or they had good songs or whatever,
The cleansing, if you will.
Right. And it's funny now to look back because, Chris Cornell died here in Detroit, a couple months back. And then, of course, you got Scott Weiland and Kurt Cobain and Lane Staley and now just Chester Bennington. It's kind of a bizarre thing to start thinking about that when that whole thing broke, that half these guys would be gone. Not the Chesters in that group, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Eddie Vedder's like the only
amazing.
Right, yeah, Eddie Vedder's, yeah, they're going to wrap him in bubble wrap or something like that, I guess.
He's like the only frontman left from that genre.
Really, yeah, and Andrew Wood, I mean, you can put that in there as well. It's like, yeah, it's unbelievable.
Of course, absolutely.
So you guys go out and tour on Open to the Public and stuff, and when you were touring, I'll let you start off, Ray. When you guys were touring, could you see the change of the guards with maybe smaller crowds or different things like that?
Yeah, some of the rooms get smaller. The crowds lighten up a little bit in places. We still had our fan base, which was great. They helped us out a lot.
Right.
We wound up doing rooms on our own, and I think that sort of saved us mentally. Our fan base was there, and Spread Eagles, it's kind of a cult following, I think. I don't know how you would label it, but for people to still come around and come to the shows now is a big deal. It's really humbling. But and that time that was very humbling as well. You just start playing smaller rooms, and the conversation comes into play. Well, this band's doing that, and it's more about what Pearl Jam is doing, and just you start to see the distraction.
Yeah, Rob, what do you think?
So
I'm sorry, Ray. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish up.
No. I said I can give you the scenario. We left to go tour on a really beautiful, shiny tour bus. We came home in a Ryder rental truck. Being on top of the gear sometimes, and that's about as much of a visual as I can give you on that.
And that's not a metaphor. That really happened.
Yeah, I guess that's the real.
So
to bounce back from that was, we had to have some balls to do that.
So when you guys get done with that tour, what is the next step? What happens then, Rob?
Well, we started demoing for a third record. We had Sony waiting, but it just, I guess the band was started to fall apart from the stress of all that stuff. And I mean, this is years into it at this point, and we didn't survive we didn't stick it out. But it would have been nice to have stuck it out, but it took years for anything else to be, because at this point now, grunge was the only thing that was accepted, So if we would have stuck it out, I don't know if we would have if it would have made any impact. So we just took a break, And
so I think you go ahead, Ray.
I think I don't know if we could have survived or not. There was a lot of bad decision making, and it was just best to let things lie. Walk away with your integrity in your hand.
I remember asking Kid Rock one time, who of course is from here in Detroit, if he thinks that he hit at the right time. And he says, well, there's not much I could have done if I didn't. But do you guys think that if you guys would have maybe put out your debut record in 1987 or 88, you might have been able to survive that a little bit more? Because like you said, Guns N' Roses still had that stuff going on, and there were some other bands like that.
It's all timing.
Yeah.
It's all timing and luck, Well, I don't predict to have my crystal ball, but,
Well, even bands, no, it's okay, sorry. Even the biggest bands, Guns N' Roses are one of the biggest bands in the world, but at the time, yeah, they were still big, but Kurt Cobain was making fun of them. Skid Row went from the top to the bottom, and we're talking two of the biggest bands, the two biggest bands from that era, from that genre, so they even had, Guns N' Roses even had a hiccup, and Skid Row, had the whole fallout with, fighting with Sebastian and not surviving that. So it's hard to believe we would have survived it if we had been out a couple years earlier. What would have happened is we would have been more of I feel what would have happened is we would have been more of a household word if we had come out earlier. But I think the grunge thing, and I like grunge music, but just, to be clear, but I think the grunge thing would have still taken its toll Spread Eagle. So
now, when you guys decide to just call it a day, and Ray, you got your last drink with Paul and the whole thing. Ray, it says here that you turned your back on the music business for a little while. Is that true?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I just want to go off and do some different things.
I did. I just got, you question your life decisions at that time. I mean, I think I can't think of anything else but singing for a rock band. It's just kind of crazy, you know. I did some stand-up comedy, you try some acting stuff, but this is in your blood. Once you do it once, you can't get away from it, no matter how much you think you can. And I regret some of my decisions. A lot of pride and my ego got in the way. So I own it. I own my stuff, and I just always kept plugging away. So I'm lucky to be. Number one, I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to have Rob in my life again, and we'll have our friendship intact. And we're able to play music.
I'm lucky too.
I'm grateful. I just there was.
Well, you came back pretty quickly, right, Ray? You came back to music. I mean, you took a break, but you came back pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I had tunes. Yeah, I came back. I had to play. My thing is, I'm a song and dance guy. I have to be the jumping monkey all the time. So if I'm not doing that, my life gets even more. It will spiral out of control. So I came back. Yeah.
Now, before the reunion,
I just buried the whole thing.
Before the reunion in 2006, what kind of stuff were you doing, Rob? I know Ray says he was doing different things, stand-up comedy. All that. What kind of stuff were you doing? Were you doing session work or anything like that?
I was, I went right into other bands. I just kept playing. I was doing a lot of alternative music, heavy alternative, crazy music. I stretched out because musically I needed to stretch out to see, what was out there for me, my boundaries, test some limits, so just kept playing and still here, still playing.
So we'll fast forward a little bit so I don't take up too much of your guys' time. But so you guys decide to reunite in 2005, 2006, something like that. So Ray, what was that like? What was the first thing that happened when you guys decided to get going again?
Just getting back to rehearsals and getting in touch with the songs again was a bit of muscle memory, and I sort of the stuff that I sang was so high end and so high screamy and high energy that I had to find a way to get back to that. And Rob was really patient about it. So rehearsals were kind of interesting for that. And we just went out and we had fun with it. It was great to get back in, on the saddle.
Well, what started it? Did you call him, email? Did you bump into it, Rob, somewhere?
No, there was many conversations. There was me calling him all the time saying, we should get straight back together and do some shows. And Rob was always really kind of busy, had a scheduling issue or something. He finally just came around. He was like, let's do it. And so I think, his energy met mine, and we just went for it. Somehow it felt right for both of us. We didn't get the other two guys, obviously, but, we did it.
It's funny that you mentioned that, though, because I guess when you're a kid, when you're in your 20s or whatever, writing some of these songs, you don't think about singing them when you're, in your 40s. Some of them are probably difficult.
Yeah, because you're going for broke. You just, with me, I know that I'm going on a tape. I know it's going to last a while. So you have to think about what you're going to leave behind, and I just left everything on the table.
Yeah, recreating these songs is hardest for Ray. Going back to this stuff, the hardest job is Ray's, because that singing is just incredible, and he's a human being, so it's hard to do that at 40, but he's doing it, and it sounds incredible.
Yeah. So you guys, go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
People have been very kind to me, and they've been very patient, and I'm singing my stuff a little better now.
Yeah.
And, like I said, Rob was patient about it, and there's a certain confidence and ownership of the vocals that you have to just take. And so I think I'm hitting my bullet points where I should. I think people are going to get their money's worth.
Yeah, there you go. So you guys get back together, you play some gigs and everything. Was there ever any talk about maybe doing some new songs?
Always. Yeah. There's always that hope of writing some material, We just never had it's about being in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
He was very busy, and my life got really busy and complicated. So, that conversation's only come into play really lately. Back then, we just wanted to play the songs the best we could and get out there and bring that back to life.
Yeah. So
we're starting to get major offers now. So that conversation is happening a lot right now, but we can't really talk about it for another few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting the band back together. All right, I like that.
What a cliche, that's true, man.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So you guys, so Rob, let's talk to you for a second about the stuff that you've done since Spread. Of course, you're in UFO, and you're with Sebastian Bach. Is there anything else that you've done that we would have heard or seen?
Yeah, I'm in a band called Of Earth that I sing and play bass for here in New York. But it's, mainly what you said, between UFO and Bach and Spread Eagle, I'm pretty busy, which is how I like it, And plus, the template has changed. The role has changed. The role model, whatever you want to call it. Musicians have to keep busy now to make a living, and that's what we do.
Yeah, how's the things going with UFO? You got some. I think when I talked to you last time, did you have tours with UFO coming up this fall, or was it with Spread?
All of them.
Okay.
I leave on Monday for UFO, and then Spread, and then another UFO, and then Spread, and then Bach. And Ray has some stuff coming up with his other band that he'll mention. Like, we're all trying to keep busy, UFO has a record coming out September 29th.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it's the only way to get by now is if you're a musician. You got to keep busy. You can't really sit at home and do nothing. You have to hustle, and that's fine. I like hustling, so it suits me well.
Yeah. Now you're in New York, right, Rob?
Yeah, we're both in New York.
Okay, Ray. I thought at one point you went down to Florida or something.
I did. I went down to Fort Lauderdale in 2003.
Okay.
I thought I'd sort of live out my life on the beach, and that didn't happen. So I got back in,
But it was a good plan. It was a good idea, sure.
I gave it a shot. I couldn't do it.
It lasted a couple of weeks, and then it's back to New York City, right?
Yeah,
we wanted to recreate that. Ray wanted to recreate that tour bus, that week of being on the tour bus with no responsibilities for the rest of his life.
I tried.
Driving to the first gig.
Yeah, I think
it was a divorce tour.
I think you remember. I remember you telling me about going down to Florida. How long were you down there, Ray?
I gave it 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah, I was I tried to do my 5-year mark and couldn't do it. So I came back to the city and started writing again. And people that, as a singer, whatever I do, people have been very kind to me. Some people have not, but the ones that have, they give you the strength to go on, So I really love what I do. And I really do love it now a lot.
Yeah. Man, that's cool. I'll tell you what, just sitting here talking to you guys, I can hardly wait. Hopefully there's a date in Detroit, coming up in the future somewhere. That'd be cool to reconnect. It was great to see you a few weeks ago, Rob. It was it's like a blast from the past. I think
Ray, how about Ray has a new record coming out with his band Weapons of Anew. We should plug that.
Oh yeah, Ray, what do you got going on? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned Detroit. I was just there. Well, we just finished a record. We got it mixed by Mike Ferretti. He did a lot of 7-desk work, and we're actually shopping a deal now. And we went out with Alter Bridge in February. That was really cool. So
really,
it was really a great experience because we never played together as a band. And that band as well, Weapons had never done a gig together. We'd done the recording, but like Spread Eagle scenario, we never played a show live. So my first gig was opening for Alter Bridge in Nonpoint, I believe in Detroit. And it was in front of 2,000 people, 2,500 people. So I had to get it together really quick. And we had a great month out on the road. And that thing's mixed, and it's going to come out, I guess, maybe September, November. And I'll be doing the work with that band as well.
I see this, the first single, Kill Shot. I just looked it up as you were talking. Apparently, you lost my phone number when you came to Detroit, and then you found it again after you left.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Sorry about that.
No, it would have been great to touch base with you again, other than over the phone. But, so I'll have to give this a shout, man. Awesome stuff. Weapons of Anew. Cool. Who's in that band with you?
So they have Freddie Ordine, a brilliant guitar player. He used to be in a band called Havoc Hate. They were out a lot with Man of War back in the day. Chris Manfrey on drums, bass named Reno. We've been together about a year and a half, and we're going back on the road, I think, in September as well. When I get back from Spread, I go out for a while. I just got the phone call today. I don't know exactly how long I'll be out for, but I'll let you know right away.
All right, well, that's cool, man. Weapons of Anew with their song Kill Shot. We'll have to give this a plug here on the show. So that's cool. Rob, I'm glad you said something about that, because I don't know if Ray ever told me about that, or maybe he did. I just, I drink a lot of whiskey, so who knows what happens. But.
Yeah, we're like I said.
Anyway.
Oh, there you go.
And can I plug spread shows?
For sure, man.
Okay, let me pull them up as you guys are talking about whatever. Let me see. Okay, we're going over, we're doing London, England at the Underworld, Spread Eagle, on August 25th. We'll be with Junkyard. Then we have Heavy Metal Heaven in Hull, England on 26th. That's a festival with tons of bands, TNT, Vane, etc. Then we got some shows in Germany with Vane, and then we're doing Hard Rock Hell Sleeves in Sheffield, England on September 2nd. So,
all right, cool.
If you're within listening distance, please come out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you ever bust the guys from Vane's balls about that first tour?
No, because I've only seen them a few times since then, but I'll have plenty of time to do that now.
Yeah.
Rob is quite the diplomat. Rob has always been a diplomat.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man.
I'm the loudmouth. He's the diplomat.
That's cool. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. We'll wrap it up here. It's really been cool to talk to both of you guys again. Rob, great seeing you a few weeks ago, and Ray, hopefully next time you're in Detroit, you'll punch me up and we'll hang out for a little bit or whatever. Hopefully it's with Spread, maybe with your Weapons of Anew band.
It'll be soon, I'm sure.
So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Just going back and listening to some of the stuff off that debut record and the second record from Spread Eagle, it's just so good. Just raw, gritty, dirty. I just can't say enough good things. Actually, it's funny because looking through some of the comments on YouTube and whatnot, some people are saying, why didn't Ray West take over for Sebastian Bach? That would have been pretty cool, actually, with Skid Row. But I think Ray was kind of burnt out on the music business. Didn't even think about asking him about that. We recorded this interview a couple weeks ago, so some of the stuff that we talked about may have actually already taken place. But I got to tell you, good guys. Can hardly wait to see them again. To see a Spread Eagle show in 2017 would be pretty cool. It's too bad that Paul moved on and Tommy Gaylor as well, because that's kind of what made the band. Those four guys right there. But I got to thank Ray and Rob really for taking the time and talking with me here on the Radio Chatter podcast. And thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you dug it. If this is the first time you heard about Spread Eagle, go back and check out some of the stuff from those guys on YouTube and whatnot. While you're there, maybe check out some of my past interviews. I've talked with James Hetfield, Chris Jericho, Dave Mustaine, Alice Cooper, John Cooper from Skillet. All those are on YouTube as well. You can check them out. And, of course, subscribe, give us a rating. Follow me on social media, Meltdown WRIF. And, as always, thank you so much for checking out Radio Chatter.